So I did my presentation on first-generation biofuels. So first-generation biofuels are sugars such as glucose and sucrose, as well as starch, corn, wheat, and certain vegetable oils. So fuels like ethanol and propane are made from this, and they're made by fermenting these starches and sugars, and these are the most common types of fuels. So they're grown and cultivated as corn, wheat, sugarcane, or even animal fats, and they're produced through yeast fermentation of these sugars. So basically the sugar is fermented and then it produces alcohol, such as ethanol, and as well as CO2, and a byproduct of this is energy, such as ATP. These biofuels are widely available and produced all over the world, and this makes it the most common form of fuel because it can be produced anywhere. These lessen the CO2 emissions because they lessen reliance on fossil fuels. This is an alternative form of fuel, and they're made by farming or raising animals, and this lessens the CO2 emissions. But the use of these biofuels has negative impacts on the state of the food supply because these corns and starches and wheats are made primarily for the creation of these biofuels, as well as raising these animals are made for the creation of these biofuels and not for food for the population. For the economic impact, it decreases the reliance on imported oils because these can be farmed locally, and the production of these biofuels opens up new jobs because we need people to farm land and raise animals, and this boosts the GDP of the country. So while the first-generation biofuels are highly accessible, they do negatively impact the food supply and take up a lot of land space to grow them. Therefore, my recommendation is that since second and third generation biofuels are on the rise, more research should be done concerning them, as they have less carbon emissions and are efficient as well, and they don't take away from the food supply because second generation biofuels are mainly wood and forestry, and third generation biofuels are mainly algae and just like marine plants that are found in the ocean. So for my plan of action, right now there's a lot of concern about the toll that the first generation biofuels are taking on the land and the fact that they're not as efficient as third and second generation biofuels. So I would start looking more into the third generation biofuels such as algae, which is much more efficient and can compete against the fossil fuels. And these are my sources.